Good afternoon. Welcome to our Thursday Live. I have a very special guest with me here today. This is Tjhoko Paint, and she is my niece, my brother and his wife, and Baba Tinus came to visit. It's lovely to have family with us. So enjoy the session with me and Tjhoko this afternoon, and we will be showing you how to revamp normal plastic paint pots into something that is absolutely gorgeous. And Tjhoko will focus in here. How beautiful. Texture, beautiful, something that you can use and we can upcycle, and we can make sure that we are kind to nature. Now, where you are watching from, whether it is Switzerland or Australia or New Zealand, Mauritius, other parts of Africa, welcome to a friendly South African home studio. First, what you are going to need for this session is some sandpaper, 100 grit. Then you will also need some lacquer thinners. In Australia, you do get lacquer thinners, and it is called Digger's lacquer thinners, available from hardware stores. And then you will need a stencil. I have used an A3 stencil design that I've cut up in smaller sections. So it's the 22 A3-2 stencil in the Tjhoko range that I'm using today. And you will need some stencil of Paris paste. You will also need Tjhoko colors. And I have another special guest with me today on our live. For our live today, we are working with Lively Lazelle, a color inspired by a very special person in Australia. Lazelle, this is a beautiful color, but I don't think anything can be more beautiful than your personality and heart. So it's like a caramelly, beautiful color, and we are going to start. Okay, first important step is to sand your plastic well. For sound purposes, I'm not going to do that here because I've already prepped this one. But what you need to do is you actually need to remove the glossiness of the plastic so that Tjhoko can properly grip. Once you have done this, the next step will be to take your thinners, take an old rag, and you properly wash the plastic off with the lacquer thinners. So you wet the cloth properly, Tjhoko, that it's wet. Wear gloves, work in a well-ventilated space, and you wash the pot off.
Wear a mask.
Okay, and you can wear a mask or just work in a well-ventilated space. Tjhoko is showing me hand signs, and I didn't know what. Was my hair not done? What was the problem? So, first important step, sand, then lacquer thinners, and then you allow for the thinners to properly evaporate and dry. So that's very important that your surface is completely dry before you start with the next step. And Tjhoko, here's a pot for you. What you can do is you can maybe just put some stencil of Paris on it without a stencil, or do you want to use a stencil? Okay. So what we are going to do is we take some masking tape, we take our stencil, and due to the fact that it's a round surface, it won't be possible to do the stenciling perfect, and that's why I did like a very vintagey, rustic, textured effect on the pot. Now what I do first, and you will do it once I'm done, okay, on your own pot. I secure my stencil with a piece of masking tape, wrap my stencil around. Make sure if you use a stencil on a surface that is round, that the design allows for that. So there are no pieces that actually pops up while I do it. Everything stays intact. I secure my stencil again. So we had a rude awakening this morning. I told my sister-in-law last night, don't set an alarm. I'll phone you this morning, 2:30, to make sure that you are up and ready for your flight. 3:30. Now you were supposed to leave the house 3:30 to go to the airport. So I was supposed to phone you 2:30 so that you could get up. 7:30, Jaco came running into the room because he fell asleep on the couch. And he said, you know what? Your brother and sister-in-law is already landing and we only woke up now. We got into the car with our pajamas and we started driving to go pick them up from the airport. Rude awakening of night. Okay, but they're here and we all are awake. Next step, once my stencil is secured, I will take a paint scraper, scrape some stencil of Paris, and there are many videos on our YouTube channel with various uses for the paste. With a paint scraper, I scrape it from the jar, and what I do is I spread it onto my stencil. Now there can be different thicknesses. Okay. This stencil will be easier to use because that one pops up there. There's finer detail on that one that pops up on the design of the stencil. So I will scrape my paste onto my pot, and this does not need to be perfect. The more uneven it is, the beter. Dankie Karen. Ons het net hier hulp nodig. There's masking tape. So I spread it. Some areas thicker, other areas thinner. I remove. And on this area, I could have stenciled more, but what I'm going to do is just to show different inspiration as well. You can also have done this if you don't have a stencil, so that you actually create texture on your plastic. You can also just paint the plastic with charcoal by following the exact steps as I've explained: the sanding, cleaning with the lacquer thinners, wait for the thinners to dry and then paint. But what the stencil of Paris does, it actually creates beautiful texture, that it looks like pottery and not plastic. And what I do is on the edge here, I also add some rough areas with stencil of Paris. What I can do over those areas, some areas I just make more uneven. Okay, so that's the next step. We have a family effort here. Okay, there's your scraper once your pot arrives back. And then you are going to stencil of Paris it. Okay. So this is what my pot looks like now. Ja, smeer hom. Okay. Next, I will allow for the stencil of Paris to properly dry. And here's a different stencil design that I have done on this spot. And now the stencil of Paris is completely dry. And now Lively Lazelle comes to play. Just get a paintbrush here. Okay. Let me quickly help. Okay, so what we do is we quickly scrape Mehielke's pot. Los ek jou hier op jou eie, Mehielke. Mehielke, tell our friends, the rest of our Tjhoko family, how old are you?
7.
Okay, and in which grade are you?
2.
Grade 2. And Mielke, something exciting is happening next week. What is that? You need to speak up because the mic is there. You need to talk a bit louder. What's happening next week? Next week, Thursday.
My brother is
Turning.
turning 2.
Yeah, that's right. And did you go to the beach today?
Yes.
And it was cold. The water was freezing.
No.
Not. Okay. Maybe I'm just older. I feel temperature more than what you do. You still have young blood. Tell me if you're happy with my stencil work, Mielke. Are you satisfied? Are you happy?
Yes.
Okay. Can I stop?
Yes.
Do you want to continue more? Do you want to add more? Maybe just add some texture here at the top of the pot so that there's more stencil of Paris sitting there. And you can even use your fingers, Mielke.
No.
Yeah. It's fun to get dirty. Okay. Once the stencil of Paris has dried, I'm going to work with Lively Lizelle. And this makes me happy to have her in my home today. I have never met Lizelle, but it feels as if I've known her my entire life. She is that person. She is a tonic. She is lively, exactly that. She is passionate. She is caring. She is beautiful. She loves her family. She loves her husband, and yeah, she has a very special place in our Tjhoko hearts. So this is the beautiful Lively Lizelle, and I will show what it looks like after I've done the technique that I will show next on this color. Yeah, you can remove your stencil, Mielke, and then we can wash our stencils in water once you are done with them so that you can reuse, repurpose them. Okay, so here's Lively Lizelle on my pot. Tip, make sure when you do the sanding that you also sand the top section and also a section on the inside so that when you look at the pot, it is nice from top and the area that you will see on the inside. So I will definitely paint the edge of my pot as well as a section on the inside. So it looks proper, it looks neat, it looks well rounded off. Okay, I'm not going to do that now, but you do that. I have done it with the next pot that I have prepped already. Just take a moment and suck up this color. It is beautiful. Okay, what I have done, that's perfect. Don't paint yet, it first needs to dry. What you can do is you can dry brush mine once I'm done with it. Okay, so this needs to dry and then we are going to paint it. So now we have a few pots. Won't you paint my pot on the inside so long? So it's nice and neat on the inside as well, please, Mielke. Yeah, with that color. What I have done here is I have used Lady Lise from Vereniging. Yeah, everywhere, paint everywhere. Lady Lise from Vereniging was used on this pot, and now I'm going to give dry brush ideas and just playing around. So I'm going to use Hello Hetty to dry brush on top of that, and also Eye of Elsie, which is a beautiful brown to darken your tones. Those of you that have seen Crystal playing around with colors this week and how she mixes her own beautiful colors by combining different Tjhoko colors together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my brush, only the edge of my brush, in some Hello Hetty. I use my drop sheet, I remove excess, and Tjhoko, you need to zoom in so that the entire process makes beautiful sense. And what I'm going to do now on the texture on my pot, I'm simply brushing so that you can actually see the detail but it's not covering the entire surface. And it's beautiful if a darker color sits underneath and you start playing around with lighter colors on top. When you dry brush, very little paint, and you brush on the surface, look how the roughness gets accentuated and change direction. Also something that you need to keep in mind, sometimes I'm in such a hurry, I'm actually impatient and I don't allow for coats to dry. It does help if you allow some drying time in between, especially when you're doing techniques as well, so that you can systematically do the transformation. So I'm dry brushing also the top and the section on the inside so that everything looks fantastic. Mielke, that's a great job. We just now need to wait for your coat to dry properly before we apply a next coat. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Eye of Elsie with just a little bit of Hello Hetty. Just make a tone or two darker. Wat wil jy doen? Hierdie. Ja, jy gaan hom nou klaar maak. And what you can do and play around is just sections. And what I even get, I can't resist. I love to use my hands. And you just wipe in a darker tone. Don't worry. It's the Tjhoko signature if you walk around with clothes filled with paint. And now, just for a last accent, is some David. Jy gaan nou, okay. Beloof, jy gaan vir my. Mielke will finish this off for me. So with my dirty brush, I'm just adding some David on my drop sheet and I'm just wiping some light on top. And absolutely you use colors that make you happy. You don't even need to wipe everywhere. So brush everywhere. So if you want sections empty, if you want to wipe away some to create beautiful natural elements on your surface. Oh, this is happiness. And this is playful, joyful, fun, and the reward is absolutely amazing. Okay, next step, while Mielke is going to dry brush this for us. So there's different tones sitting, different textures. And it was just an ordinary plastic flower pot. Last step, once you have done your paint work, you will allow for the paint to dry 4 hours. Coastal areas, everything takes longer to dry. Winter months, everything takes longer to dry. Wait overnight. What I have done here is I have already mixed my glaze. 3 parts glaze, 1 part water. Now always when applying the glaze, we say use a damp cloth. This is a creative surface and it's actually very uneven. So what I'm going to do, seeing that it's not kitchen cupboards, it's not furniture items, jy moet dry brush, sister. Here's your paint. Vat 'n bietjie daar wit and you dry brush. And there's Hello Hetty. Dry brush, little paint, dry your brush and just brush on the surface. Jaco will show you. So due to the fact that this is a creative item, I am not going to work with a damp cloth. I am going to work with a brush. Remember, with creative things, we are allowed to take shortcuts and do things in a creative way. And I'm going to brush my glaze onto the surface. what the glaze does, seeing that this is an item that will be used outdoors, sun, rain, water, weather, UV, the glaze will make it water and UV resistant. And here I have something. That looks amazing and beautiful. Just my damp cloth to wipe here and there. Also on the top, I will apply glaze because that's where water will sit. If it was a smooth flower pot, I would not have taken the brush step. I would have used the damp cloth. Yummy, Tjhoko. Oh, this fantastic, beautiful. Okay, and there we have transformed our ordinary plastic pots into something beautiful, earthy, and absolutely stunning. The glaze is still wet, it will dry, and it will be absolutely amazing. If you want a more matte finish, you want to tweak the satin finish of the glaze, you are allowed to mix the glaze, 1 part glaze, 1 part water, and just apply more than 1 coat. Okay, this is us. Tjhoko and Nadine's Facebook Live with Tjhoko Paint, and thank you for watching. My message for this week, after an email I've received from Shoal earlier this week, it actually gave me inspiration for this message, and my message is that it's the small things that make the biggest impact. Small things count the most. Nee. Yeah, so focus on the small things in life to make the biggest changes and impact in another person's life. Nee, Tjhoko. Gee my drukkie. Dankie dat jy saam met my geverf het. Sê bye.
Bye.